So I want to address when, who, what, why only in engineering, and my approach to all this. So if we go to the next slide, Petra, please. Mm-hmm. So one of the questions, when we have a lot of tools, and Petra just developed another way of doing threat model. We have another developer here that done automated threat models. We have companies that have a lot of software that do threat models. But in an agile environment, when do we do a threat model? When do we trigger a threat model? Have we really, as a security team, placed ourselves in the right place to trigger a threat model? Do we do it at the design phase? Is it time to do a threat model before code being shipped? When do we do a threat model from an engineering perspective? A new service, new functionality, new library, as the impacting authentication and authorization? So one of the biggest challenges I had in every place that I worked with when we do threat model, and you try to introduce threat modeling, is how do we inject ourselves to make sure that we do a threat model before code goes into production? And up to now, and I think Isa kind of made that comment, that threat model is a friction at the moment. And every place that I worked with is considered as friction and is considered an afterthought that security push for. So that's something to kind of think about us as an industry on how do we best align ourselves with the agile method to make sure that we are doing a threat model iterative and on the new functionality or whatever that process is. So the second question I have is, if you go to the next slide, please. Who should be involved in a threat model? We've been discussing engineers. We've been discussing security engineers and developers. Nowadays, developers don't know the infrastructure because they basically consume that as a commodity for them. We don't include product owners. So we are sitting in a threat model as security engineers talking about threats, but we don't have the whole view from a product perspective, from a service perspective, from how the underlying infrastructure works. How can we make sure that we address risk and concerns and actually get the full picture when we don't even have the right people in the threat model? How do we make sure that we get all these people to join a session? I worked in a lot of agile environments that they're so siloed because their function is to consume APIs, to consume infrastructure as code, that they don't really understand the infrastructure they're running on. So if you're threat modeling a Lambda function, they don't know what permissions a Lambda function has because they consume that from the DevOps team. So how do we threat model accurately when we don't know those, the whole picture? And again, you don't have one person that gives you this picture. The next question I'll pose is, what are we actually threat modeling in a threat modeling session? If we go and ask the developers to give us a data flow diagram, I'm pretty sure 90% of the developers will think, I've never produced a data flow diagram in my life. I'm not here to be designing data flow diagrams. I know how to code. I don't know the full flow because, again, I ingest infrastructure as code, which gives me a lot of different flows in there that I don't know. Any diagram for the infrastructure team looks different. For the development team, it looks different. What we require for a threat model is completely different. So how are we supposed to do a threat model when we don't even have a common language of what a diagram looks like? From a security threat model perspective, we need to see flows, we need to see processes, we need to see actors, but all those diagrams don't exist from a development perspective. Do we give them the responsibility to develop those diagrams, taking them away from actually doing the everyday day job? Or do we as security do this data flow diagrams, which means we spend and invest time to discover how the application works, bring all the other teams together to draw the information out and actually build a data flow diagram. So then the next question I pose, and again, there's a lot of questions and not really a lot of answers because it's challenges that are faced, and I have my approach that will cover, but these are a lot of questions that we, as an industry, I think we need to approach better.